On MorningLine, thanks for joining us, talking about gun laws this morning with John Harris, Tennessee Firearms Association. A lot going on. It's good to hear from you, John. Nice to see you, my friend. We've got some phone calls. We're streaming on Facebook, and also you can join us. You see the number there on the screen on the plus. And let's take a call from Caleb. Caleb, good morning. Hi, Caleb.
Hey, how are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
I'm good. So I had, I guess, a few comments, really. One, I've been a gun owner since 2016 after the Orlando Pulse shooting. I'm an LGBT person myself. I wanted to go and protect my family. I've been victimized by somebody here in the state because of me being LGBT, having a pride sticker on the back of my car. With that said, this past year, I actually bought my first rifle with the threat of violence from the alt-right and people that are on the Trump supporter side. I went and bought my rifle because I was in fear for my family's safety because they can't control themselves, apparently. That said, I think Tennessee is acting in a very backwards way. I think they need to step away from the amosexual laws that they keep trying to pass every year. The constitutional carry is just a way to allow everybody, even those who are convicted or convicted felons, to be able to get their hands on guns without being held accountable, people being able to sell guns more fluently. I think it's wrong. I think it's immoral. They're putting guns into the people's hands that don't need to have guns. And we can't even get past the fact that we have laws on the books that aren't even protecting the actual kids that are dying from accidental shootings because they can't get the proper gun owners or the gun owners to act properly and responsible with the guns they already have. And I think it's just immoral and improper to allow, these people to get these guns without having any type of permit process or this 90-minute, class that they have to take online. And to the point of having these people standing outside with their rifles, threatening these people walking past their house. I think that's like what you said, Nick. It's judge, jury, and executioner. That's not okay. We don't live in the Wild West anymore. This is a society where we are ruled by law and order. And when we take that away, you get a mob mentality. That's exactly what we saw at the insurrection. And if you keep allowing constitutional carries the way that they're claiming it to be constitutional, then you're going to have more people trying to act on it like the insurrection.
Okay, hang tight on that. I appreciate your call, Caleb. He brings up some interesting points, John. The constitutional carry thing, and he's a gun owner. He's got it for his own personal defense and for that of his family, but he's concerned about constitutional carry maybe making it too easy for some to get guns that maybe should be under a little more scrutiny. What do you think?
With all due respect, I don't think he understands the proposed legislation or the issues that well at all. The bills, the legislation that talk about constitutional carry in Tennessee, each of the ones that I'm aware of start with the premise that you have to already be a legally able to possess the firearm. So the constitutional carry has nothing to do with who can get a gun. It has nothing to do with any aspect of who can possess it. That's regulated by other laws that have been on the books since 1968 in this country. And all constitutional carry says is that if you are legally able to possess a firearm under other current laws, then you don't have to have a permit. You don't have to have any special training. You don't have to pay a fee to the state in order to exercise that right. And what the listener doesn't maybe appreciate is that there's 50 states in the nation. 17 of them already have this kind of law. 4 states that touch Tennessee's borders already have this kind of law. And there's no data coming out of those 17 states that shows that allowing people to carry a legally possessed firearm without having to have a state permit increases crime, increases accidental shootings. There's no data that there's any adverse effects at all.
But do you not
and in addition,
do you not think
we've
though
got
that
30 states that allow permitless open carry? So if you can see the gun and you legally possess it, you don't have to have a permit. That's 2/3 of the nation And there's no evidence from any of those that it creates any higher risk that he's alluding to.
I understand, though, but you are, I know, an advocate of getting proper training with a weapon, knowing what the heck you're doing with it, and which is the end is the barrel, and which end is the trigger, and all of that. I mean, certainly you would say some form of training or some knowledge of a gun is a good idea. And, to consider the possibility that someone can just go buy one for the first time and that's the first time they're ever holding it and just take off with it and go do it, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, they're separate issues.
Yeah.
The issue of should an individual have training if they're going to carry a knife or any other weapon, including a firearm, on how to safely use or carry that weapon is a matter that is regulated by the civil law. Okay, negligence standards may apply, or even recklessness standards. It has nothing, however, to do with the provisions of our existing Constitution at the state or the federal level, or the criminal code on whether or not or what level of infringement the state can impose on your right to wear the weapon or to carry the weapon in public. And Scalia said, for example, in the Heller decision in 2008, that this right that the people of this nation have to keep arms, to bear arms, and under the Tennessee Constitution to wear arms doesn't come from the Constitution. It doesn't come from a statute. It's a right that we have inherently as citizens of a nation. And all the Second Amendment says is the government can't infringe or regulate it. And the Tennessee Constitution says much the same thing at this point. And so as we go back, I strongly believe people ought to get and have training as a matter of personal responsibility. The more training, the better. But I don't believe that is something that the state can impose as a condition precedent on your right to exercise a constitutionally protected right.
All right, let's take another phone call. This one from Keith. Keith, good morning. Hi, Keith.
Hello.
Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Does Tennessee have a citizens arrest law that where citizens can see a crime going on and use your firearm to hold it till the police arrive?
Okay, that's kind of going to what I was bringing up earlier. Can you do that as a citizen's arrest? And I don't know, John, if that's outside your realm.
No. That's one that I speak on.
Okay.
Tennessee does have a statute on citizen's arrest. And it's the same law, for example, that would apply to a homeowner, a business owner, or even private security officers. All of them operate under the citizen's arrest statute. That statute specifically says you cannot affect or make a citizen's arrest and use deadly force to do so. So you can't, if you're making a citizen's arrest, if it's, a homeowner, a business, an armed security officer, they can't pull the weapon and go, stop or I'll shoot, or stop, you're under arrest, I've called for the police. If that happens and you're making a citizen's arrest, you've committed a felony aggravated assault in Tennessee, and that's a much higher crime than probably what you're trying to stop. And then we've got another problem, and there was some language that came about a few years ago that I think was extremely poorly reasoned by the General Assembly, and that is now no longer, if there's a citizen's arrest, do you even have the ability to take custody of them and take them down to a magistrate or a judge and swear out the arrest warrant. You have to now in Tennessee call a police officer. They have to independently investigate it, and the officer decides whether or not to make the arrest. And if the officer decides not to make the arrest, you, the citizen, or you, the business owner that tried to make a citizen's arrest, could be charged with false arrest.
Wow. Okay. And just to bring this down into a scenario then. All right. So I'm walking along the street and I see my friend John Harris knocked down and an individual beating him with a baseball bat. You're my friend. I see you. I pull out my gun. I say, stop beating John or I'm going to shoot you. Sit down. Don't move. We're calling the police. Police come and make the arrest. The only reason the guy stops and stays there until police arrive is because I've got a gun to his head. So I'm in trouble for doing something like that. Now remember, I'm not in any danger. I'm coming to your aid. And I can't imagine that I'd be in trouble. And if I am and I'm on the jury, I'm walking, so that's a waste of time. But I mean, is that something that if I do that, I'm in trouble under what you just described?
Potentially, yes.
That's
Under
ridiculous.
our existing statutes, if you look at Tennessee Code Annotated 3911, 611, and 612. If you came upon your friend and your friend's being beat with a baseball bat, and assume your friend would have been justified in using deadly force because they were in imminent fear of death or serious bodily injury, okay? You then, under 3911, 612, have the ability to render aid, including use of deadly force to stop the threat of death or serious injury. You can do that. You can use force to stop the threat. But if the person stands up, stops beating, and turns around and walks away, and you still display that weapon and say, "Stop, I'm making a citizen's arrest, and I've called the police," if you use the weapon to try to make that arrest, you've committed an aggravated assault, and that's a felony.
Okay, and I do see the difference there, the line, and that's a little different. But at least the main thing would be that I saved you, John. Okay, that's what comes down first. Save you first and foremost, then whether I can make the arrest or not. That's where some people would argue, well, I'm crossing over to being law enforcement. The main thing is I want to make sure I stop the harm to you. Listen, we'll take a break on that note. Do we need to take a break, Mary Elena? Yeah, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we've got more phone calls, and I do want to touch on this lawsuit against the NRA and your thoughts about the bankruptcy and the fact that they're planning on moving from New York now, the headquarters, to Texas. We'll be right back with more right after this.
This is